Hi, this is Jody Ryder, and this is part 2 of Designing BC, and we're still on the chart of accounts. So in the last session, we looked at account subcategories, which was the main reason for the first video. Once you have your account subcategories decided upon, okay, and by the way, what account category you put your subcategory in allows it to be seen. You can see this is pre-filtered to assets because I chose assets in this account as my account category. So when I went to account subcategory, it pre-filtered itself to just assets. If you need to see more account categories, you can actually unfilter to see more of the account categories. All right, so we looked at setting up an account the last time we were in here. Let's look more at this list window. I'm going to turn off my filter so we can see more. You'll notice a column in my screen that says balance at date. This is not on your list by default. You'll need to use your add field button, personalize add field, and add it to the field. Okay. This balance at date allows you, I'm turning the filters back on. I'm going to edit this and take that date filter off. Under filter list by, filter totals by, you add the filter of date and you put in any date you want to get that balance at date as of. This is what was there on December 31st, 2020, and even though I closed my income statement, I can still see what the balance was in my income statement at that date. By the way, if you're filtered to a date and you drill into the balance at date, it will also be filtered to end on that date so that what you're looking at is more proactive. Now bear in mind this net change. You can also use the date filter to look at what happened. And my net change should pop in with some of these. $2,000 happened in December of 2020. I can actually drill down into that 2,000 and get the information I need. Okay, so it's prepaid insurance. Minus 2,000, it happened right there. Okay. So you can add the date filter, and actually I tend to sometimes just filter on anything. If I need to see if my balance sheet is working, if I need to see what my cash subcategory was, okay? So on this first list, pull in balance at date. It's an insanely handy feature. Over here, it's more of your setup. So I assigned this account to assets. It's a cash subcategory. It's a posting. This 1001 is my assets, and it's a begin total type. And at end total, I coded in what we were totaling. Okay. I did not assign any of my accounts to general business, general posting, general product, or cost types. Okay. And I also haven't assigned any to a default deferral template. You can, of course, do any of that. And again, if you don't need any of these cost accounts, any of these fields here, you can remove them. There are a couple here that are set up with general business. This is Kronos, of course. So it's domestic services. And that just adds another level of reporting. So again, I've got my total income listed. I can come down here and see my total expenses. And actually, I've got a net income popped in here. Now, this is all very cool, but if your chart of accounts does not allow for the numbering, it's not going to matter at all. I'm going to remove this filter and turn my filters off. So if I had a 4-digit chart of accounts, I might not be able to grow my accounts enough to add totals. So when you're designing your chart of accounts, you need to make sure that you can total each of these if you're going to total it. If you've got cash, if you want to total cash, you're going to need a begin total and an end total account number. And so those have to exist in a numerical sequence that makes sense. Okay. So in my design of a chart of accounts, instead of 100, 10200, 10300, and then accounts receivable 10400, I might have my cash accounts still start with 101, and then it would be 10110, 10120, so on and so forth, so that 10100 is possibly begin cash, and 10199 might be end cash. Okay, so work it out in an Excel format before you try to do it in here so that you get your design correct and your numerical sequencing correct so that you can have the begin totals, the end totals, the headings, etc. in order for all of your functionality as far as financial reporting goes to work. You can then pull this information based on what's my balance sheets, what's my Ask Account subcategories. And as we've seen, there's a financial reports segment in BC. And many of these, the cash flow statements, the income, out-of-the-box income statements, you will, of course, have to edit them because you're going to have different account numbers. But they will work at this juncture. And as you can see here, I could have built, instead of posting accounts, I could have built my financial reports off of account categories and subcategories. Which, by the way, you saw some of that when we were in the GL account subcategories in order to kind of get there. You'll also find trial balances by period, other cool stuff you can run on account subcategory. So, we've seen the cool stuff you can do with a chart of accounts. How do you start? Well, you start with a configuration package. And as you know, with configuration packages, you pretty much have to get out what you want to import. No more, no less. So the first thing is we want to pull in the GL subcategories. So I'm going to go New. And of course, name it anything you want, so it means something to you. The table ID, for those of you that don't know, you're going to pull in the table ID. If we can't find it, let me put in subcaps here. I can't find it this way. That's not surprising. So what are we going to do? In that case, we're going to go to the search and look for the GL account categories that we saw earlier. To find out what table this is very simple, and anyone with security, and most people are going to have security to this, can do this. You can either go to Help and Support, Inspect Pages and Data, and it'll pop up what page this is. And the page number comes in handy for doing web services, or what table it is. It's 570, GL account category. It's 570, okay? We can remember that. That's one way to get to it. The other way is a keyboard shortcut. So if I'm at GL subcats, oh, no, categories. Oh, my fingers. GL account categories. I can also hit my Control key, my Alt key, and the F1 key at the same time to pull up that very page inspection page to see that it's 570. That's my favorite method of getting here. Again, that's Control, Alt, F1. So now let's go on back into my GL subcats, and I'm going to pull in table 570. Tab off of it. And configuration package cards are kind of their own presentation and webinar, but I cannot actually put my dimensions as columns, and I can delete entire tables, which in the case of GL subcats and GL accounts, I do. Why? If I accidentally created some, I don't want to write it over, maybe it's not right, I can delete it and start from the beginning. Typically, when I create a new company for a new implementation, I also already use the basic setups, right? I don't do a blank company. I use the basic setups and alter those a little bit. So there's usually always a chart of accounts when I start. There's usually already pre-created account subcategories when I start. And so I tend to hit delete table before processing. Not always the best option, so handle that with care. But before I export this, I want to limit it to the fields I know I'm going to use. So I'm going to go to Table, I'm going to go to Fields, and these are all the fields in my GL account subcategory. I can actually move all of these out because all of this is really good information. I'm not going to edit this. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to export that to Excel. And I want to look at the GL subcategories with you in depth. So we're going to wait here while it creates this. It's opening on the screen, so give me 1 second. Okay, here we go. This is the GL subcategory config package. So if I needed to add some, remove some, change some, I would not edit the presentation order or you can do the sibling sequence number if you want to. This is really just a line number. And if you're not familiar with BC, line numbers are a thing, and they're incremented generally by a factor of 10,000. The entry number is going to be very important because there's a parent entry number, okay? So my first assets, which is kind of a heading, right? This one is system generated. You'll see that's true because remember, in the account categories, if I filter this to everything that's just true, you'll see assets, liabilities, equity, income, cost of goods sold, expense. These are the ones you can't change. As far as system generated, they remain true. Everything else will be false. Okay? So as you're adding, this is incremented up based on display, where you want it to display. The parent entity number is whatever's parent. This is going to, and here's my indentation, but this is going to really factor into the design of the chart of accounts and the reporting. So current assets is a child of entry number 1. My assets, liabilities, equity, their parent entry number is 0. Always, okay? 0, 0, 0. However, current assets is a child of assets. And then on my line cash I want to group under current assets. So its parent is current assets, which is 2. These are all of my current assets. So they will be grouped under current assets and totaled that way. So first, you want to add what you need to add. Make sure the account category and income balance are correct in any additional reporting. System generated for anything you create is going to be false. Numerically increment this up by 1 and then pay attention to your parent entry numbers and make sure those are accurate because you would have had to add numbers here. Once you have the entry number, the parent entry number accurate, and all this else is accurate, you can then indent if you want to indent. Don't indent if you don't want to indent. I would not alter the presentation order. I would let the system do that. Sibling sequence is up to you. It's just going to increment. It's really that times 10,000. 13, 13, 20, 20. You get the idea. Once you've designed this, you're going to go ahead and import it. Right? So to import it, you're going to go to Excel, import from Excel. I will have done that. And you're going to choose the file that you want to import and import it. And now, at this, and of course you're going to apply it. If you've never worked with config packages, again, we're going to do a series completely on that. But you want to apply the package, and now your GL subcategories exist. So now we're going to then go and create the chart of accounts. Okay, here's the rub. Well, I'm going to wait till I get there. Let's see what, it's 15. So that's the table number we're after. I'm going to go back to my configuration packages. I have mine set up as a shortcut. You may have to use your search button. But I'm going to come in here and create a chart of accounts. And in this one, we're actually going to try to search for it. Chart of, nope. We'll just type in accounts and see what we get. GL account. It's 15 right there. All right, GL accounts. I'm going to go to table and fields. By the way, you can actually filter these to pull out just one or two accounts. I definitely don't need all of this information, okay? So when I import mine, I don't need a SAT, I don't need review, I don't need GIFI. So actually, I don't need most of these, so I'm going to say clear included. Now I'm in a blank slate. I do need the number, the name. I don't need the search name because I'm just going to let my search names default to the name. I do need the account type. I don't need my dimensions the way I'm designing mine. Dimensions will be set at transaction level. I do need my account category, income and balance, debit and credit. You don't need description number 2. I'm not blocking or marking any as direct posting or reconciliation accounts. I do recommend you do, though. You may want to change these settings until after the implementation because you will have to bring in beginning balances as general entries. So things like blocked, direct posting, and reconciliation account, I would not mark those at the beginning of an implementation. I would mark those after you've imported all existing transactions. New page, do you want to start a new page after this reports? Not necessarily. But number of blank lines is going to come into how it looks in presentation. Indentation as well. I don't need last modified. I do need totaling because I am going to have total accounts. I don't need any of this consolidation or general posting or any of that. I don't need the tax liables or the VAT or the exchange rate. I do need my account subcategory. All right, so these are the fields I want to bring out. So I'm going to go to Excel, export to Excel. Wait for this to pop up in Excel. And of course, typically I would have named that export something very specific, but again, I'm just presenting here. And here's my numbers, okay? Here's where I'm simply going to start from the beginning, and I'm going to renumber all of these, pasting in and worrying about my presentation. So I've got headings in all caps, otherwise no caps. The account type, and by the way, in configuration packages in certain fields, you simply hover over the heading and it tells you what your choices are. So I've got posting, heading, total, begin total, and end total. We saw all that in the setup of the card. Its main category, and again, it specifies its assets, liabilities, equity, income, cost of goods sold, or expense. Income or balance is balance sheet or income statement. Debit or credit is debit or credit or both. I tend to pick both. But number of blank lines. After my headings, I've got one blank line. My posting accounts have no blank lines. Indentation, none for my headings, and I'm indenting by 1. Typically, I indent by up to 3 because I do add other headings when I design a chart of accounts. So typically, I might come in here and say, cash, and I need a cash starting, so 10100 would be my beginning, and I would change that to 10101. Okay, I'm going to say that's the begin total, it's assets, it's balance sheet. I'm going to say both here, but I'm never posting to it because it's a begin total. Number of blank lines, I want 1 here. Indent this by 1, and then I'm going to change these indents to 2 or 3, right? And then I'm going to add an end total to the cash. $103.99 possibly. Total cash. Oh. And this is an end total. And it matches that begin total. It's still assets, balance sheet, both. Give me one blank line after this one, and I want it indented by 1. Okay? And what are the totals? Is 10100 to 103, 10101 to 10300. So I would put that in totals. And dot dot means through. I now have a new total, but look at this. What account subcategory? These are integers. Now you may be thinking, where do I find that integer? Guess what? That integer exists in the other account subcategory config package. Remember, I told you here the entry number. This entry number is this account subcategory number. Account entry number, entry number. So all I have to do is, I typically VLOOKUP to get it. I move columns around in that subcategory config package, and then I VLOOKUP. But this I know is cash, so that's going to be 3, and that's going to be 3. And then as I import this, I'm going to get my total cash. So I'm going to save that. And I'm going to go ahead and import this so we can kind of see what it's doing. And then of course the ever important apply package, and it's going to tell me what it's doing. One error found. That's my begin total cash. Let's show the error. You cannot change the account type. That is because I've posted to that account before. So that's understandable. That's just source, that's just display issues with my Kronos company. It's already been used and I wanted to change the number and it won't let me. However, I can come in and change the number if I need to. But now I have a total cash at least. That isn't working because I didn't plug in the right. That's going from 10101. So let's go ahead and change that to 10100 here so I can at least get good totals. Now I've got an accurate total cash. And so in this way, you're going to design a chart of accounts that means something to those people reviewing it. All they have to do to research is to come in, drill in, take a look, filter, whatever they need to do. But this is your first line of reporting, your chart of accounts. And that's a little bit about how to design it with configuration packages and custom GL account subcategories, etc. So the next order of business will be to edit our posting groups, and that will be the next in this series of Designing VC.